Andrew, looking at your topic, I would say only if you have a healthy gut, you have healthy growth. You created the term of environmental anthropathy. So what is this?
So it's an entity we don't fully understand, but you're right that we think increasingly having a healthy gut is really important to have healthy growth and long-term development. And really, this started really 50 years ago when people took biopsy samples from the small intestine of people who were living in poor conditions, usually in the tropics, and they noticed that the structure of the gut was different to people who were living in Europe and the USA. And they noticed a gut that was flatter than usual, so instead of having the usual villi which helped to absorb food, the gut was flat and it was inflamed, and it looked like a gut that would cause problems, although these people appeared to be healthy. And what we think is that this probably develops quite early in life, particularly when people are living in conditions of poor sanitation and hygiene, and that actually two things happen if your gut is not healthy. Number one, you can't absorb nutrients as well as you need to, but secondly, and maybe more important, you really need to keep a tight barrier around the gut, because if that gut becomes leaky, then bugs that usually sit harmlessly inside the gut can actually cross into the bloodstream and maybe cause, a bit like fighting an infection, a sort of low-grade inflammation, and that may stop children growing.
So this non-healthy gut is all related to environment where the infectious rate is high?
So we think it's related to the environment because people who have lived in, say, a poor environment who then move to a new setting, so people who moved, for example, to the USA to study, gradually their gut becomes a little bit healthier over time. It takes quite a few years to resolve, but we know that moving the place where you live does affect your gut. So we think it's something in the environment. The most likely thing is that children growing up in conditions maybe without adequate water treatment and sanitation are exposed to germs repeatedly. But we don't know that. We need to do more studies to really understand what causes it. There may be other things in the environment, for example, contamination of food that maybe causes some insult to the gut as well. But we think there's something in the environment that makes the gut unhealthy.
And now, does it have an effect if a mother has a non-healthy gut on the next generation, on the newborn? Is the growth, is the microbiome of the newborn different?
Right.
Do we know something about this?
So we don't know much about that, but it's something we're actively investigating at the moment. So we think that the maternal gut is really important to keep the developing fetus healthy. We know that inflammation and infection during pregnancy definitely affects the growth of the fetus. And sometimes that infection is local infection, that, for example, urinary tract or STI kind of infections. But sometimes infections, even at distant sites, can cause problems, we think. So there's observational data to suggest, for example, data we saw yesterday, that gum disease, that oral health is important, and that the inflammation that arises from that may restrict fetal growth or cause prematurity. We've hypothesized in the same way that maybe a mother who's got an unhealthy gut and a lot of inflammation arising from that gut, that could affect the fetus.
So it's both good food and safe food, and the environment must be okay. Then you have a high probability to have a healthy gut. Could I say that like that?
Yeah, that's definitely what we think. So what we think is that when we see children who have recurrent episodes of diarrhea, that's really just the tip of the iceberg, that actually underneath that there is probably a lot of recurrent exposure to germs, which, even if it doesn't cause diarrhea, is causing that gut to be inflamed and unhealthy, and that impacts growth.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.